My name is Maxime Beauchemin. So I'm French Canadian, but I go by Max. It's just easier. I am CEO and founder now at a startup called Preset. So we do offer a managed service around Apache Superset. Apache Superset, I mean, if I'm going to say something that's like non-commercial about some of the stuff we're building, is Apache Superset is a very, very strong open source contender. And then the way I prefer my coffee, I don't know. I mean, I do espresso with oat milk, a little honey. So that's been my jam lately. By that, but the general idea, you have a large a database with a bunch of models and tables inside this database, and then you want to ask it a text question, human language question, as in in which countries are my sales growing fastest this year, right? Or you want to ask like all these generic questions, and you want for the AI in this case to generate SQL that would answer this question with a result set. So working on this problem is a pretty open-ended problem, right? There's like an infinite amount of question that people could ask, and there's different database schemas. It's pretty open-ended, but it's nicely deterministic in a sense that for a question, you're able to say, how did the AI perform? Did it write SQL that answers the question accurately, yes or no? So I think that's the perfect kind of problem, I think, well, it's not necessarily the perfect, but it is a good kind of problem for, say, product builder and being able to do some prompt engineering where you can assess, is it answering the question well or not? So
because it's black and white.
Yes, it is like not necessarily perfectly black and white, but it is fairly deterministic. You can say it succeeded, or it mostly succeeded, or it completely failed, right? Did the SQL run? Did it have the answer in it? As opposed to write a 200-word essay or like a 1,000-word essay on the Napoleon's conquests in Europe. There it's a lot harder to evaluate, like, did it do well or not, right? Like, you need a human type interpreter, an expert to read the stuff. But with the SQL, you can a little bit more say like it did well, or a little bit more black or white. That's a good use case. And then the first thing I was like, okay, working on this problem, I need to build a bank of test cases that are deterministic, right? The first thing I got to do is like find a test set of, say, 100, 500, 1,000 different prompts on a various set of different databases that have different maybe nomenclature, naming conventions, level of complexity, like some might be normalized in different ways. So I need to find this test set so I can actually evaluate whether the AI is doing well or not, and then whether my prompt is working, is doing what it should be doing, so I can iterate on it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I see exactly what you're saying. So basically, you were like, okay, if we can figure out all of these different edge cases, then it's going to be a much more robust system when I am passing it into the LLM.
Right. Or if I can have, say, a test set of, say, let's say I have 1,000 different prompts with 1,000 corresponding queries that I believe are right or answer the question well. Now I can go and iterate on my prompt first, right? I can generate a prompt that's like, okay, given these table schemas, right? Like given this database structure, and given these constraints, can you answer the following question, right? Like, what are my sales by department, year over year growth, and then I can iterate my prompt. I can run this test suite systematically, and I can get a report that says like, oh, this version of your prompt is 72% accurate. And I can point it to, say, a different model, maybe a different GPT model, or the latest whatever Facebook is coming out with, or Databricks of these open source model, and I can run the same test suite with the same prompt and say which one performs better, or even more interestingly too, where does this one fail and this one succeed, and where the opposite is true too, and try to understand why and iterate over that prompt and the selection of model.
So the first thing that comes to my mind is, how does this interact with a vector database? Because it's like vector databases have become the unsung hero of prompting and the LLM movement, right?
Right. So what's interesting is that a little bit the same way that you think of a testing library. So if you think of like, what does this solution that I call Promptimize that I created, it's really just a place where you can express your test cases. I call them prompt cases, but input
I love
prompt
that.
and eval function, right? So you'd say, okay, for this question, I know for this input question that the user may ask, here's the eval function. So you provide this testing library with your own prompt engineering toolkit, right? So you might use LangChain if you're familiar with that, or that's a comprehensive little super useful little Python library to interact with OpenAI and craft intricate prompts, right? So you have these templates, you can do chains of prompts, you can create agents, so you can do with LangChain. My little library, all it does is allow you to express your test cases, a little bit like PyTests, right? Or these like very simple library where you just write your unit tests, and then you're able to run your suites of tests. So my library is not a prompt engineering library per se, as much as just like a prompt engineering testing toolkit and evaluation.